adventures, just me today. I'm going to be doing a review of Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim and making a little craft project while we're here. However, this craft project includes cutting up books. So I guess that's the content warning for this episode, for this video, that if this is going to cause you physical or emotional pain, no. Anyhow, I bought these books secondhand from the thrift store yesterday. This is a copy of Little Women, and this is a copy of Wuthering Heights. I actually have the same exact edition of Little Women, so I don't feel bad about cutting this one up because I already have something like it. And then Wuthering Heights, I started looking at this when I got home, and I realized that I liked it, the cover and everything, and the word size more than I anticipated. The synopsis on the back is also really fantastic. It's just a section of Wuthering Heights that really captures everything about this book. However, on the cover, there's really deep indentations as if someone put a piece of paper over this and then drew with a pen, but they pressed really hard. So for that reason, I'm gonna let this happen. And we are making a craft project that hopefully will be seen in our videos. So that's what my plan is, and we're going to be talking about Six Crimson Cranes, one of my more recent reads while we make this craft. Six Crimson Cranes is written by Elizabeth Lim. It's book one in a series. Currently there's 2 books released. I think the second one's called The Dragon's Pearl, and I don't recall the third one, but my understanding is it's set to be released in 2023, so this year. It's not out yet. I listened to this on audiobook over the past week. It's one of those books that's really rising in popularity recently. Not sure exactly why, or exactly what started it. Maybe it was one of those TikTok trend books, but a couple people mentioned it. Actually, several people mentioned it. I saw it through Book Instagram, the accounts I follow on there. They said it was really good. I got to read some synopsises, and I was intrigued. So I picked it up. Well, I actually got it on loan from the library, and I decided to read it. Oh, my hot glue is getting a little crazy here. Somehow what was on the tip of the hot glue gun is now on the edge of this book, so it's fine. So Six Crimson Cranes is about a girl named Shiori. She's actually a princess who is cursed, unable to speak without causing death to people she loves very dearly. And she also has a bowl on her head. Through the almost all of the book, she has this bowl on her head. And it's a really interesting concept. You know how, as a writer, when you injure a character, for example, it's easy to forget that injury happened, and you constantly have to remind yourself or make a note so that they don't just start running on a broken leg or something like that, or twisted ankle, etc. Something along those lines. And the author, I think, did a really good job of making sure this was such a significant part. I mean, it became part of the way Shiori lived, having the bowl on her head, but it also, I mean, it would be inconvenient. Part of the curse was that she was unable to be recognized by most anyone. So that was significant to the story, and the bowl was part of what disguised her. People couldn't really see her eyes because of the bowl covering them. There were a couple different elements in Six Crimson Cranes that I really enjoyed. There was the magic. It wasn't heavily focused on magic, I want to say, and that's going to be a little confusing. So the main character was cursed by magic, and she has, from the very beginning, we understand that she has an ability to use magic, and so they're constantly being affected by magic, if that makes sense, but they're not constantly using magic. It's definitely not an easy way out of things. In fact, it complicates almost everything in the story, which is kind of fun to see. It starts in a world where magic is outlawed or considered bad. Did I ever give a synopsis of Six Crimson Cranes? I don't think I did. I started to, I think I got distracted in the middle of my synopsis. So, it's a story about Shiori, a princess who's cursed once she discovers a conspiracy for the throne. She's cursed by the person who she discovers has a conspiracy for the throne about. It's really fascinating. There's a lot of elements of betrayal in there. I don't want to give spoilers about the book, but maybe someday we'll do a video where I just chat about such a book. Another thing that I really liked about it, aside from, I mentioned magic already, is the dragons. It's set in a different culture than like your medieval dragons, and I really appreciated seeing that. It's nice and refreshing to see a different culture's idea of what dragons are. And the way they played into the story was interesting. At first, they were significant to the first part of the story, and they were used throughout, but I was expecting to see more of them throughout the book, and I realized that, well, I'm fairly certain that book 2 focuses a lot more on the dragons, but I was surprised that they made it feel like such an important part of the story in the first quarter, first act, and then they were poof gone. For the most part, I mean, they encountered them off and on, but another element of Six Crimson Cranes that I really liked was the element of siblings. Shiori has 6 brothers. They're a very important part of the story, very important part of the plot, and I love seeing her relationship with them. She loves them very dearly, and they all love her, but it's not, I mean, it strikes me as a very real sibling relationship. She has, okay, let me rephrase that. It strikes me as the way that the relationships are portrayed strike me as very real. She doesn't have a perfect relationship with all of her brothers. She's closer to some of her brothers than others, but they all have a unique personality, and it's also so fun to see family, especially siblings, that are very important to the plot. Something I love seeing in books, especially when so many adventure stories, and I understand why, have the whole orphaned main character, no family, etc. And so writing a story with parents, with family, with siblings is always really admirable, and I really appreciate it when I see that in a book. I also love that, well, yes, they were part of Shiori's life, of course. They were also a massive part of the plot. They were part of what raised the stakes so high in regards, I'm not going to say much more. They helped raise the stakes and in the story, and just were so much significant in everything that was happening. And playing on that same theme of siblings, the found family in this book, or realizing who your family truly is, which didn't happen until the end of the story, I really loved. I mean, the author, Elizabeth Lim, set up for it really well. I think she did a great job of preparing for the revelation or the realization that Shiori had at the end of the story about her family, about who her true family was. And she set up for it so well. It worked with the plot, and it was very endearing to know that I don't think I can say what I wanted to say without spoiling the book. So I'm gonna pass on that, but it was lovely. I loved the family in this book. So what made me like Six Crimson Cranes so much? I mean, I've talked about the magic and the dragons and the siblings and the family, but what else? Like, why did I like the book? And why did I enjoy reading it? I listened to the audiobook and it really captured me as a listener. I was very eager to continue reading most of the time. I will say that there was one section near the beginning of the story where I wasn't sure, or it was, I guess you could say it was the beginning of Act 2, or close to the beginning of Act 2. I couldn't figure out where the story was going. I was kind of under the impression that if the main character's goal was achieved, we wouldn't have anywhere else to go with the story. And I was thinking that and realizing how much audiobook time I had left to listen to, and I was like, how is she going to drag that out for that long? I'm not sure if I'll like it if she does drag it out for that long. But the author really we would achieve a story goal, and then we'd immediately see a new story goal that we needed. There were continually new revelations, and the magic really tied into that. In playing, as the main character achieved her story goals, more were gained, more were built, and so the stakes were continually being upped. And that's what kept me reading. There were a couple times where I was waiting to see what would happen because I knew that she was close to achieving a story goal, and it seemed that she would hit a story goal, then we'd need a new one. So there was a teensy bit of a stall, but as we got into the second act more, that kind of faded. So I was more curious. It didn't take away from my enjoyment. I was just more curious of how the author was going to pull it off. And because it was an audiobook, I just was happy to keep listening and wait and see. So overall, my favorite part of the book, what made me really love the whole story of Six Crimson Cranes, was the resolution at the end. It involved the finding the family. It involved I can't say too much without spoiling, but that was my favorite part of the book. That's what made it really endearing to me as a reader. And if I was rating this, I would give it a 5-star. Here is my craft that I've made with you guys today. We have books with Little Women. I think that I would like this if they were all closer together. I think I'm gonna like that more. It's also gonna make the color of the yarn less eye-catching. We'll be focusing more on the little dollywalkers here. Well, now you guys know how to make pretty garland things, and you've heard my thoughts on Six Crimson Cranes. Thank you for watching an Erudite adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and the links to our social media are in the description down below. We'll see you guys again soon. Stay warm.